What's going on, guys? Philip at Trade Genius. All right, we're going to go over some reasons why this drop in Bitcoin is probably over, and now you need to start looking at getting long as we march ever closer to halving. So we're going to discuss a few points on that, show you guys some compelling reasons why that is probably the case. So we'll dive into that in this video. Real quick, guys, having lots of success on the crypto trades and also our binary options. There's our aggregate gain for the year so far in cryptos. And again, I also pulled back a little bit today, but we hedged against that, and so far so good, and probably looking at buying some alt dips here soon. So if you guys are interested in getting into the room with us or our indicator services, moneymaker, we're going to talk about that a little bit more in this video. Head over to Trade Like a Genius. We've got specials running that you can take advantage of, and these are all heavily discounted right now. So all right, guys, let's dive into this video and check it out.
Trade Genius.
Okay, gang, so basically, fell out of this consolidation pattern, dropped down, hit the 200-day moving average, paused a little bit there, and then have been bouncing below it. What's a bullish sign is that we haven't really peeled away from it. I know it looked like it was going to happen here a couple of days ago, but that low held. And this is what we would consider a viable triple bottom. Doesn't have to be exactly the same lows, but generally speaking, when you have probes down like this and then it reverses, that's one clue there's a bottom in. From an indicator standpoint, whenever I get a second moneymaker in proximity like this, very, very, very high probability that these lows hold in that scenario, and this goes higher and follows through. Another clue is size of these daily bars, and generally speaking, those will see follow through. Now, it is just past 8 p.m. Eastern. That means a daily bar has closed, and if you notice, we closed right on that 200-day moving average. So the market obviously is going to be looking for a close above that primarily to kind of signal to get long. If that move starts to happen, you're going to see a quick move, probably right up to around that 9,000 mark. Notice here we got a volume void too, so that's where you're going to see some of your larger moves happen. So we start taking out this high of today, which was on Coinbase, was a high of 87.1245. That can accelerate pretty quickly. Another thing I want to point out with you guys, this RSI has given us a bullish divergence. Now I look at the RSI here is a 14 period RSI. RSI measures closes, so I don't really pay attention to the wicks. I look at the candle, closes, and we had a lower close off of this RSI reading that was higher than back here. So higher low on the RSI, lower low on the closing prices, and we get a reversal. That's a bullish divergence. The other thing is on the stochastics. Now, when the stochastics diverge like this, it can be a little dicey. If they cross over, you'll get a down move, but you also have to keep in mind what the trend is doing and kind of frame things. And stochastic line which is kind of like the meat of the trend, is starting to turn up rather sharply. So that's going to bode well for this down move ending, coming back up. And even though the stochastic RSIs are getting a little toppy, you can oftentimes see a decent move out of this formation when everything starts to turn up. Okay, so those are your bullish clues. Okay, another thing too, guys, is this is zoomed in now. Basically, this line represents the 200 period moving average that you saw in the previous chart. This whole entire area here is a weekly block. Okay, so that's where price battled previously in the history of Bitcoin's chart, and created an area where we would expect price to fight, and so far we fought here. This level here, 76.88, nobody's really looking at that specific level for a bottom in this pullback, but those are the types of areas that actually do prove to be areas that hold. It's the ones that no one's talking about. A lot of people were talking about 70 or 100. A lot of people were talking lower, but not that this level here around 7,700 would hold. That just wasn't a common level. So that's another reason why I like it. But as you can see here, we're battling at the 200 period moving average. You can see where price, they're just pinning it on that average. So now I think tomorrow will be important to see if Bitcoin gets a daily close above that. I think you might see a surge come in. Now there is a lot of volume stacked up as far as the supply side goes above here. There's a lot of supply on the exchanges, so there will have to be some volume that comes in, but I think the potential is there for this to push through that. So that'll be key for tomorrow, is watching that where that daily close is above or below the 200 period moving average. Something we haven't looked at in a while is a tether cap, and Tether, I will point out to you, Tether is been very sideways, and we saw that back here. This was actually toward the bottom of the bear market, right? And similar situation where it flattens out, price actually kind of keeps going down, diverging away from the Tether cap, and then turns around and catches back up to that level, and then we see another big surge in Tether market cap. We'll talk about the Tether cap in the next video, because there's Tether's getting sued and kind of that relationship with the market. But all in all, I'm not, the Tether market cap is steady. We're not seeing a big drop. If we saw a large drop off like this, I would be concerned, but we're not seeing that. And so in fact, I think this bodes well structurally that Bitcoin has room to move up here toward that. Another one we're going to point out is GBTC. Now this is the tradable Bitcoin fund that you can trade on like a stock on traditional stock brokerages. This shaded area, this is the premium. Okay, so if premium's high, probably not the best place to be buying GBTC. You want to take advantage of a pullback and low premium. And a lot of times the low premiums will be around buyable areas. Now, historically, at this part of the cycle, when you come out of the bear market and you start building toward the pre-halving phase, this green shaded area is, that's when, if you see premium dip in there, a lot of times that's very viable lows. And that's basically what we had here. Premiums came off, bouncing along the lows here. And that's what we're seeing now coming off of that. So this bodes well for this whole bottom structure here to hold as well. Just because of the historical way this has performed at this point in the halving cycle. Look at the internals a little bit here. Now, these dots indicate the BitMEX funding. So if traders are net short, then market will tend to punish the herd. Now, a lot of times the default's going to be slightly positive at 0.01. So there's not a lot of actionable things when it's like this. But one thing on this indicator shows us is when the BitMEX premium index is at a discount. And when it's at a discount, that actually it's kind of like the sentiment that would indicate that you have risk to getting an upside run, squeezing some shorts. So I kind of look at both things, what the funding is doing and what the premium discount is. Now, we notice back here the premium wasn't discounted, it was positive territory, and what price did was gradually go down, 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 and then flush. Then it flipped, price stabilized, and now is grinding back up higher. Now this is starting to flatten out, so we'll keep an eye on that. But if anything, based on the internals, there's probably an excuse for this price to keep grinding up against this discount. If the funding goes really green, okay, that's where you might see a potential for a pullback. Okay, could be kind of violent. So you see the funding increasing over here, and then you get a violent pullback. So that's why we like to keep an eye on this thing. So if that changes drastically, we'll do a video on that. But for now, looks like there could be a nice steady grind up based on the internals here. All right, let's take a look at VWAPs. Okay, volume weighted average price, and these are previous monthly levels. And I like to map them out because they tend to get a reaction from price. So what we did was we were ranging between these two VWAP levels, and then this thicker black line is actually the quarterly VWAP levels, so they hold a little more strength, you could say. But we've now broken out of this range, and so that brings us to the 8,900 level, and then if that breaks out, we could see another range up to the 9,645. I don't think we're going to see that right away. I think we'll probably see some resistance up here and then a pullback, but structurally speaking, this is very, very bullish, guys. So don't discount this or think, oh, there's more downside, because if you think about it too, quite often we see 40% plus pullbacks historically when we're in a bullish cycle. And if we look at what we've gotten here, pull this from the top down here, we've gotten a 44% pullback. Very, very, very healthy pullback, especially at this stage of the halving cycle. So a lot of people have stepped in and have been buying in here. I know the institutional guys, that's the kind of pullback they're looking for. So, these are all the things you need to keep in mind about these big dips. I mean, it looks like, there's more downside coming, right? It looks ominous, but in reality, this is like those buyable dips. And again, when price is up here, they're wishing they could buy back down at 8 grand. Why didn't I buy it back at 8 grand when it's up here at 13? Now that it's here, it's like, well, they start second guessing. That's retail mentality. You just have to understand you have a nice 40% haircut. Buy that thing. We're in a bullish cycle. All right, here's another clue too. Now, this, we've talked about fractals. What are fractals? They're patterns that repeat in various scales. And especially in price charts, what that shows you is kind of the psychology that you'll see in certain situations. So what we have here on the left is June. June is showing us a drop, a bounce, another bounce a little higher, rolls over. There's that triple bottom, okay? And then it moves on and starts to grind higher. And then in our current situation, our current bottom, we drop down, dead cat bounce, okay, similar equal lows like over here. We make a larger high or a higher high, then we roll over, a little wider move, but we roll over, test this low area again, same like here. And then we bounce from that and make a higher low and then a higher high. So we've bounced from that, we've made a higher low, and we've made a higher high, okay? So very, very similar. This is back in June. What happened? Well, price took off and took off and took off. So this is not that we're going to see this the same like run that we saw at 13,000, but you're going to probably see this low hold, and you're probably going to see this area that we showed you where this price, fell quickly through, get retraced. So again, high probabilities where we're seeing 9Ks, and if we don't have too much of a negative reaction off of that, we could bust right through those support levels that we saw through here. If you recall, 6K was a similar situation. People thought we'd hit that, roll over, and it went right through it basically. So that's kind of how Bitcoin is. So you could see a very fast price recovery from these types of setups, from these types of areas. But I think more reasonable would be probably meandering in this area and consolidating further as we head deeper into Q4. But remember, Q4 should be bullish for us. So again, that's another reason why we want to be looking at buying the dip. All right, guys, well, that's going to do it. That's the bullish case for Bitcoin. Real quickly, if this does start to break down, I would, obviously anything in here is going to be fair game as far as consolidation and buying any pullbacks. But if we get a close below like this 80-80 level, then I think that is probably very bearish, and then we are probably going to probe some new lows. All right. So, but right now, anything north of that is very bullish. And again, very, very key is going to be getting back above this 200 period moving average. But I think there's a lot of overwhelming evidence that there's reasons to be getting long and buying this dip. And I think there's a really good probability that this holds. All right, guys, well, that's my take on it. Hope that helps. Please hit like and subscribe. We appreciate your guys' views and really helps out our channel. All right, guys, take care. We'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.
Trade Genius.